Hi, this is Shu with a review of the Puma Clyde hardwood. This is the third or the fourth edition of Puma's bold, ambitious basketball shoes lineup. Some of the key signature players they've signed when they launched the first basketball shoes in a long time, the Court Clyde Disrupt, I guess maybe prompted that to make a better shoe. I think this is the best Puma basketball shoes that's been released among the four that's been released since Puma wanted to announce its rebirth or reincarnation into the basketball realm. The cushioning is the best among the four. The worst I feel is the uproar, even though it did feature a little bit of a visible hybrid cushioning at the back. Hybrid is Puma's version of Boost, which is energy, fused with its foam cushioning, Ignite foam, but they use like droplets of it at the heel, and not even the area where it's a lot of impact. It's like at the edge here in a weird way. So I don't know what they were thinking. Uproar was a disaster. Boogie Cousins got injured a couple of times wearing this shoe, so that's not a good sign. And before Uproar was released, Trae Young decided to ditch Puma and go for Adidas, and wearing the Adidas next levels, he managed to up a lot of digits in terms of his stats, whether it's scoring or assist or field goal percentage. So it was not a good look for Puma. The Puma Clyde hardwood, nowadays, I guess the prominent players, this is green, the Boston Celtics colors, so Terry Rozier is one of the standout athletes. Of course, Terry Rozier has went to the Hornets, and he's not having a great time there, not having a great performance. Maybe he was playing better under the Brad Stevens system with Isaiah Thomas and when Kyrie is out. Anyway, it's quite similar to the Clyde Disrupt, the lacing system, but what differentiates the hardwood from the Disrupt is that it actually has laces that it actually has laces, that lace loop system that goes all the way here, and it does its job. It gets pulled up further out to provide you a more firmer, more stable lockdown here in these areas. But of course, there have been complaints about how it, because of the, how should I call it, what looks like it acts as the Nike Flywire system, it could pinch your pinky a little bit. For me, I did not personally have that problem. The shoe fits true to size. If you're a bit of a wide footer, you might want to go up half a size. Personally, because I didn't want it to get any pinky chafing, I went half a size up, and it feels okay to me. And the toe box, there's a little bit of room there. I wish this was a little bit flatter. But the good thing is the lace loops start way lower. Usually, a lot of basketball shoes, their lace loop starts here or up there, so the lockdown has been an issue. So this is a good way for Puma to make some upgrades or updates to their basketball sneakers. You'll see a lot of silhouettes that's reminiscent of the classic Clyde hardwood, which is Puma Clyde, which is the signature shoe for a guy nicknamed Clyde Wall Frazier. Also in the outsole, you see the pattern that is similar to the Puma Clyde Court, I think it was called. It's a more exaggerated and expanded, enlarged version of that milk carton type Converse, traditional Converse Chuck Taylor's type of outsole pattern, and this works wonders. It's pretty deep. You can actually see the midsole cushioning here, so the grooves are really deep, and it's good. The traction is awesome at the heel. And even in the midfoot area where you won't have a lot of contact, they've actually tried to implement sort of like a contoured, diamond contour type of outsole. It's good. And the Puma logo is right here. It's not interrupting or providing some slippage in any way like the New Balance logo had in the Omnis, which is the Kawhi signature, and I had a bit of an issue there. The traction is good. It's herringbone traction, and it works. It's not just straight. It's not just herringbone. It's deep. It's aggressive, and it's got a bit of a curve to be more ergonomic, and it supports a lot more of a grip on multiple directions, especially with another direction of deep, thinner, deep, sharper herringbone pattern there. And of course, this is a great decision by Puma. This is where your feet will be pushing side to side when you're doing your crossovers or doing your crab side steps when you're playing defense. So the grip, the traction is the best that Puma had to offer. One of the best tractions out there, if not, in terms of the basketball shoes, because a lot of shoes have been disappointing in this particular area as of late. The heel, it's got a good, strong heel counter, but unfortunately, it's a bit wide. They've got a heel cup inside, and they've got an external heel counter as well. But I feel like for me it was okay, and I have a pretty decent size heel, and those people with really sensitive, narrow heels where you actually might slip out a little bit in some shoes. If you have heel slip issues commonly in a lot of shoes, this is something you might want to avoid, or you might want to lace up and see if it actually works. Inside, there's very minimal padding. There are no contours or protruding gel pads or anything to try and lock you down further. So that's a plus and a minus. There are no disruptions, there are no chafing, or sometimes it might not ergonomically fit to a certain foot. So it's safe, it's neutral, but at the same time it's not as grippy as a good heel counter should. What they used in the shoe is what they call the Pro Foam. They managed to coat it up with some TPU, rubbery, plasticky type of material all around, but even if it is covering quite a large portion of the shoe, it does not seem to hinder the heel cushioning or the heel compression. So that is good, because I had the issue with the Clyde Court Disrupt, which had this angular landing when you're stepping forward, which is horrible, which really hurts your ankle and your Achilles heel in some ways, in terms of the instability of the landing and the shock absorption and the impact, the way it spreads the impact. The Pro Foam is supposedly another type of EVA foam that Puma is trying to push. Is it similar to what Adidas has introduced, like Bounce or Light Strike? Something like that. It feels like a decent, normal, standard version Lunarlon maybe. But again, as I mentioned, the heel cushioning is quite significant. It's not crazy high like a Max Volume Air, but it feels a lot like the typical Kobe ADs, where the heel is kind of minimal, but there's adequate compression. I mean, there's no zoom air in it, but it almost feels as good. The cushioning overall, it feels like a typical Kobe AD series, where you have a good compression and impact protection on the heel, and very low to the ground forefoot cushioning. That's very minimal. Some people love that minimal, close to the ground cushioning, which is what you find in a lot of curry kicks. But it might be too minimal for some if you need a lot of cushioning and you get bruises on your forefoot. But again, if you're a typical Kobe AD fan, this is actually a different type of Kobe AD. It feels a lot similar in terms of the cushioning and the ride. Again, the best Puma basketball cushioning out there right now. I'm glad they ditched that Energy Ignite combo with a lot of coating around, which just neutralized the whole effort in the end. The hybrid cushioning, which I mentioned, which is the combination of the Energy beads and the Ignite foam, it does get a little bit heavy, and I guess it's expensive for Puma to make it, and they do need a certain amount of thickness for the cushioning to do its job. So in order to keep it low profile, thin, and lightweight, that's what they had to go with. But this shoe is not exactly a lightweight shoe. For a size 9.5, it weighs around close to 500 grams, which is something you would get from a LeBron. And this is supposed to look like a low-cut guard shoe type of a setting. We see guys like Danny Green wearing it. Again, Terry Rozier, quick guards, were wearing it. So why did they make it so heavy? We don't know. Is it the foam? Is it the casing? Is it the leather? Speaking of leather, it feels great. It's not stiff. It's not stuffy. It seems to keep you cool and well ventilated, even though there's like no crazy perforation around. Overall, this is a very decent basketball shoe. Another thing that I need to point out is that I did mention it's low to the ground. However, its base is not super wide. What they usually find in Adidas basketball shoes is they have very wide base. So even though they don't give you a significant protruding prominent outrigger, they do get the job done. For Nikes and sometimes Curry's, most of the times Curry's, they have very prominent outrigger, even though the shoe is not a crazy wide base. This is a bit of a neither. It's not, the base is not narrow, but it's not wide enough where it actually does its job in terms of providing you with some added level of lateral stability. And there are no prominent outriggers. So, I mean, the shoe is low to the ground, so that is good. Overall, it is a good basketball shoe. The price, I think, it's continuing to go down. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but again, if you love the Kobe's and you thought the Zoom Freaks were the substitutes, I think most people agree that the Zoom Freaks, they have 2 stacks of Zoom Air on the heel, which you can't feel. And this is no Zoom Air, it's just got a new type of lightweight EVA foam, which actually feels like the setting of a typical Kobe AD cushioning setup. So that is something you might want to keep in mind when you try on the shoe or when you're thinking about buying the shoe.